I was just upstairs saying prayers with my son and his friend Landon, putting him to bed. And my son, in the middle of his prayers, stopped. He was saying like, hey, thank you, God, that we had a good game session. And he stopped. He stopped dead. And he said, I think tonight's game was our best game ever. And like, it hit me, right? We continued our prayers, finished up, and then I asked him, like, okay, well, what do you mean? He's just like, it was just so good. Like, I haven't experienced that, and it's like, he says, because it was all the stuff that kind of built up to this moment, and it was so exciting. When I heard it, like, of course, I was elated, because we ended our session on a cliffhanger. I'm not going to go over all the stuff that happened. I made another video kind of doing a recap. I think it's just called, like, the cliffhanger. So we had a cliffhanger, where the main villain comes down from the airship and they're in the town. Basically the players had been building up a town for a long time, and they left on a journey, but they did something in the town right before they left that made it so the big bad guy went to the town and like sacked it and killed people and maimed people and did all sorts of terrible stuff. So my players went back. Man, you mess with one of your players' favorite NPCs. and I built up this town with a lot of cool characters over the last couple months we were playing. We're playing in Dragonbane, so this is like the town of outskirts, and my players are invested in this town. And when they come back there, my son is like leading the charge going into the town. It's, fog's dense everywhere. They're trying to see stuff. They hear noises, people suffering, a kid up in the air, yelling, "Mom, Mom," right? They don't know what's going on. It's all dark and misty. They hear the sounds of a massive war machine moving off to the left. Eventually they find like NPCs. Anyways, I'm recapping. I didn't mean to. The point was, Big Bad comes down from the airship. A dragon that my players rescued months ago comes down and lands with the big bad guy. The dragon was a friend to my players. So they're like confused. They're going like, what? The big bad guy works with this dragon? And they know they have a scale in their bag that they can ask for a favor from this dragon. But they don't know what they're going to do with it. Big bad guy starts off, like arguing with them, accusing them, and then eventually he's like, we're attacking, right? The players also hear the voice of one of their old party members who died, yelling spells from up in the air, from up on the airship, but they can't see him. Again, this fog. Lots of stuff culminated in this one session. Let me take a little segue for a moment and talk about something entirely differently. This last week, I've been struggling, right? Like I've been like in tabletop RPG land, just blah, like my whole head, because we had a bad session last week's session. I'm not going to go over all of that, but we had a bad session to the point where I was like, I don't want to play in Dragonbane anymore. Like, I hate simple systems. And I was frustrated. I was frustrated about like the game, and like I was just living in like this dead headcanon space or whatever, where I was like, I don't know what to do. Tonight's session was awesome. It was reinvigorating, and like I got back into it. A bunch of people on my Discord were really helpful. My friend Malachi and Rodney talked with me a bunch last night, and Malachi just asked me questions and let me vent, and it helped me work out a lot of the problems I have, which was awesome. Because when I went into this session, I went in kind of excited about like some of the stuff I'd worked out, right? Like how to make an airship work in the system, how to make this thing, so that was all resolved, and now I was ready to play. We played, it was a great session. And I realized, like this last week, I'd kind of bucked heads with a few people in my Discord. Like people were talking about simple systems and all this and that, and I've been like, simple systems. I think I don't like them, right? Like I think I like more complex systems. Another guy on my Discord, Crafty Matt, like he and I kind of, we weren't like really fighting, but we got into like this back and forth where I'm like, I don't think I like the simple systems. I think the simple RPGs are making my game session worse. I think they're harder for my players to know how to run their characters. I think it's harder for me how to build the world consistently. Like each session, I'm adding little things to the world, and then like 4 sessions later, I'm adding something that kind of counteracts that thing, and it's like, okay, so I got to take a lot of notes, and obviously I could be doing better. I'm kind of stupid, and I mess up all the time. But there's running in a simple system in some ways makes it harder for me. But after tonight's session, I was like, I totally get it though, guys. Everyone who is saying you should run in simple systems, I totally understand what you're saying. This was so easy for me to run. I just, I knew how to put the pieces in place. I knew how to design, a few bosses. I knew how to like kind of make the airship thing work out. Because I understand the Dragonbane system, because it's so simple, it was just really easy to run. I had very little prep work, like prep work done ahead of time. I had a location, I had stuff, I knew the events going on, I knew where NPCs were and all that. But I didn't have to write out any difficult text or whatever. I wrote like 2 pages of like crew notes and stuff. But anyways, I understand the point you guys are trying to make about the simple systems. And because I'm working in a simple system, tonight's game was really good. And my son, in the middle of our prayers tonight, said, "Dad, I think that was our best session ever." And that like hit me like just, wow, that's awesome, right? I'm really excited about that. And so what I'm trying to say is I totally understand the thing you're saying. You get to craft your own world. You get to like make your own headcanon, and you get to work like in this kind of limitless potential world. And so I enjoy it, and I see the benefit of it. But but I also know, I'm going to segue again. My friend Rodney, who runs the Elevator GM channel, I'm going to put a link down to it below. You can go check it out. My friend Rodney is building his own system. He's been working on it for a while. I can't talk about it. I can't even name it. I'm speaking very carefully right now because it's still in it's still being developed. But I've been able to play a couple sessions of it, play testing it with him. And it's a complex system. There's a lot of lore. I'm not going to say anything more about the mechanics or how the game works, but it's so different from the games I've played. It's different than D&D 5e, different than Shadowdark, different than Dragonbane, different than Savage Worlds, different than Wildsea. It's different in a way that I can't compare it to anything because of the way the system is intertwined with the setting intensely, all the way down to like the races and classes in like a really integral way. When you're playing one of the classes in this game, you're playing a character who knows specific stuff in the world. And so the thing I'm thinking about, we just had this great session in Dragonbane. I had this rough week coming out of a bad session, came into this perfect night. My son loved it. Everything went well. We had a cliffhanger. Everyone in my party is totally stoked to play this game. I'm stoked for next week, and I'm excited for that. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about the session I played last night, because I'm playing in this session with Rodney and a couple other people. And I'm thinking about like the story that unfolded, the intricate stuff. And part of me goes, that system that Rodney's making would be a lot harder to run. I'd have to know a lot more. I'd have to memorize stuff. I'd have to go through lore books. It'd be difficult for me to make things up in that world because it's kind of a specific and unique world. And it'd be harder for me to just make up airships or make up dragons or make up electric, elemental creatures and stuff. Because that's what I can do in Dragonbane. And I love doing it in Dragonbane. So I understand the points you guys are making. And I'm not trying to gaslight people going how could you like simple systems? No, I get it. All of my beefing this last week was because I had a bad session. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So that aside, I recognize I still think that I like the complex system more than a simple system. But I recognize the things you guys might be pushing back on it for, but in my case specific, I'm not speaking for anyone else. In my case, I know I'm afraid to try something more complex. There's a part of me that goes, I know how to do Dragonbane, right? I know how to be pretty good at this, right? I'm getting better, all the pushback. But again, I'm not trying to say that the people in my Discord who don't want to play a complex system are afraid of playing it. But I know I am, right? I know I am going, it would be hard to run the game that my friend Rodney ran last night. There's so many intricate pieces. There's so much world knowledge that comes in. I'd have to read a lot of stuff. I'd have to digest a lot of information to get the lore and the monsters and all the different, entwined things. And so it's going to take me time to get there. But I'm still excited to do that. I'm still looking forward to it. I'm excited for what my friend Rodney makes. I'm excited, for when and if it eventually releases, something you guys can track as well. If you want to go down and subscribe to the Elevator GM, at some point he's going to be releasing a system, and it's exciting to me. I'm not just pitching his game because I like him and he's my friend. I'm pitching it because it's a game that when I play it, I know who I am in the game. Like, and I'm not a good RPG. I'm not a good role player. You know, if you were to find my old GM from back in the early 2000s and ask them, I'm like, murder hobo, right? Shoot first and never ask questions. So I'm not a good role player. This system, I like role playing it. Anyways, great session tonight. Thank you all for your encouragement. Thank you all in my Discord server who were there to wrestle with me while I was throwing fits. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you hanging in, even though I'm like, So, in closing, I understand your point about simple systems. Because of simple systems, we had a great session tonight, but I'm still excited to learn about some more complex systems, while at the same time realizing I am nervous to try and run something complex, because at the moment I know how to run simple. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, what do you prefer? Like, do you like simple or complex systems? You know, and I don't necessarily mean Dungeons and Dragons, although that one is kind of like complicated. When I say complex, I mean like where there's lots of deep lore. And I know you can get lore from like compendiums and modules and that type of thing, whatever. But often, to me at least, it feels like the compendiums and modules, the lore is not intertwined with the system, right? Like the ranger is still a ranger, regardless of whether he's a ranger in Dark Sun or whether he's a ranger in Eberron. He's kind of still a ranger. Anyways, have you ever played a game where the system and the setting was intertwined? If so, post it down below so I can take a look at those things. I'd like to compare some. I'm interested in learning more about those type of systems. And then I guess, what do you prefer? Do you prefer systems where there's a lot of simplicity and you can just add all your own complexity? Or do you prefer systems where there's a lot to learn, they're hard to run, and you got to like learn how the system and setting mingle together? I'm still exploring this thing, right? I appreciate you guys. God bless you. Have a good night. This was a great session, and thank you. Thank you for your help and your feedback and your pushback. This week on probably Tuesday, I'm going to do like an afternoon stream and just maybe like a lot of the day. I'm just going to be trying to go through a lot of the comments that have piled up and, just respond to those on a stream. So anyways, God bless you. Have a good night. I think that's it. All right. Bye-bye.